governance, accountability. And today I am not alone, obviously. My name is still Benedicta Hensher. I am joined in the studio by a very handsome man who will introduce himself.
Hello, Nigeria. Hello, Abuja.
Okay.
Yeah. First of all, I want to say Happy New Year to every one of you. If you hear me, I'm here currently to talk about governance.
Okay.
My name is no other than Onyekachi Kingsley Anumata. I prefer to be called the mayor.
All right. Okay, so looking at accountability, in your own opinion, what is accountability in governance?
Okay, so for me, accountability is about transparency. Accountability is about having an opportunity where young people people can see the transparency in your governance, in your government or in your governance. So whichever way you are, let's say it this way. So when you talk about accountability, it's about you being transparent, yeah? And so if you have, I'll give an instance, you have a project you're doing, people should see the project from the start to the finish.
Okay.
People should be able to tell the resources that was used to execute that project. I mean, you can't tell us a project is 3 billion and maybe what you used to execute the project is 3 million. So if you want to prove to us that you're accountable and that's having true governance, then you should be able to come up with that. You should be able to give room where we can see and we can attest to the fact that your project is one that we can say yes, this is true governance.
All right. Now, what specific challenges do you feel young individuals face when attempting to actively engage with governance accountability?
Lack of information.
Okay.
Number one, lack of resources. Number two, lack of accessibility. When we have a government that we cannot have access to, then we can say that's like building up a bridge. When we have a government that we don't, we cannot get information about what is happening.
Okay.
That also can be a challenge. So people need to be informed about the things, and people need to be aware. So knowledge, how do we seek knowledge? Knowledge is when you can read about something, when you can have access to it, when you are known, when you have the knowledge and there's room for bridging that gap, and with that you can address such.
Okay, now looking at these challenges that the youth encounter, how do you feel that these challenges impact on their participation?
Very few people can actually do a lot when you don't have resources at your disposal. If I am asking you to do something and I do not give you the needed resources, how can you execute that? So if we have such, then we should be able to have more resources that can enhance, more resources that can also give room for development, more resources that can give room for better innovations.
All right.
So that's just challenges. I think I'm missing things up here, but it's fine.
Okay, now still talking about this, do you feel that there are notable gaps in awareness and knowledge amongst youths regarding the importance of holding leaders accountable? And if you say yes, they are, how can these gaps be addressed?
These gaps can be addressed when we have the needed resources. So let's start seeing government play the role where we have dedicated platforms for people to come and be aware. Let's have lectures, let's have educational materials, let's have programs, let's have resource centers, and let's have mentorship programs where young people can have access to the governance. To government, or people can have access to knowing much about governance People can have access to knowing much about government policies. So peradventure, I'll give an instance. So
Okay.
imagine you have the ministers. Have we ever thought about having young ministers? Have we ever thought about having young cheerleaders or chairmen? So you have a party that has a chairperson. What about having a young chairperson? How about having a young minister? So you have room where young people can be the catapults to development. Young people
Okay.
can be the roadmap. So you have them to bring them on board, not to give them room to lead per se, but they have that leadership experience. The growth takes place because they are given room to learn. So there are ways you can learn. You can learn directly, you can learn indirectly. So that way
Okay.
we can bridge the gap to those
All right.
challenges.
What societal or institutional barriers hinder young people from actively participating in civic and political processes aimed at ensuring accountability?
So if we look at let's say peradventure, you look at the gaps between that addresses this accountability. We can talk about discrimination. We can talk about limited representation. We can
Okay.
talk about participating actively in civic engagement or political processes related to accountability. When young people don't have room to this, when young people they're not involved in these processes. These are these are rooms for limitations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, how are these limitations addressed?
Empowering youths, like I said before, implementing mentorship programs, providing training on advocacy, creating platforms for their voices to be heard in decision-making process.
Think are the practical solutions or initiatives that can be implemented to empower youths in overcoming the hurdles that they would face in engaging with governance accountability?
Okay, so challenges for young people engaging can take place with local communities, including communication barriers. We can look at limited resources, a lack of support, structure hindering their involvement in governance matters. So you look at when you have the people, especially for those that are not that do not have access to the internet, do not have access to information like some of us do. Why don't you take this to their places? Why don't you take it to their locality? You can take it from the chief heads. You can take it to the community. You can take it to their schools. So these are ways that we can get them involved, and these are ways that we can also address the issues. So when we have young people understanding governance in their own language, then I think there won't be such barriers.
Now, if you're just joining us today, we are looking at unraveling obstacles encountered by youth in engaging with governance accountability. And we have with me right here in the studio, we have Onyekachi Kingsley, and he is doing justice to the topic. Now, still talking about the challenges. What challenges do youth encounter when attempting to engage with their local communities in matters related to governance and accountability?
Okay, so for young people, young individuals, they often perceive these existing accountability measures as insufficient.
Okay.
So improvement involve these measures more to be. To improve this, there need to be more measurable and more transparent governance.
Okay.
There also need to be inclusiveness and responsive concern youths should be involved irrespective of their locality or wherever they are from. So when they have limited resources, when they are not when they cannot account for the governance they cannot account for whatever the government is doing, then they start feeling left out, and that way they start the issue of them not seeing how transparent you are, that they cannot measure whatever achievement you've done so far, and they are not being involved, then you start seeing them. I mean, you start seeing young people either talking against the government or coming up with events that will look maybe like there'll be like sometimes you can see it as a fight back to the government,
Okay.
but no, it's not just about that. Um, it's about taking governance to I mean, the way we take our budget seriously,
Okay.
let's take our governance seriously. Let's take young people to be part of the system, even in whatever project or project or policies that we're making. Young people should be involved. If the law in today we have the Senate, we have the National Assembly, we have other states assemblies. Do we have young national? I mean, young. Of course, we have the youth parliament, but if you check the youth parliament, how many of them are actually young people? And then when you have the youth parliament, do they have that freedom of making decisions, or do they have other statements that still decide for them on what to do?
A very good question there.
So we have to look at it in a way that we can start changing the narrative.
Okay.
If we cannot get to them directly, we can use this. We can go through the civic engagement. We can go through young leaders in the community.
Okay, now talking about civic engagement, how is that supposed to help?
It can help through. It can help. Number one, we all know that in our localities we have government institutions,
Okay.
whether secondary or primary. We have, yes, of course, some states don't recognize all the chieftaincy and the rest of them, but we have leaders, we have community leaders. Young people can start by organizing meetups,
Okay.
can start by that mentorship section, mentorship forum or platform, town hall meetings, where those those leaders are representing the community can always find time to come back home to engage with these young people. Because the truth is, it's only in this part of the world that I see that once you have an office, then you have security aids, and then you don't have room where you can have young people have access to you. So, but when if we can find a way, and this is only when, because we are scared of the level of our execution when it comes to projects. So we are afraid that we can be attacked, and that is why we build bridges. I mean, we build blocks to prevent us from having direct access. But we forgot that these young people voted us in. These young people stood under the sun, or sometimes maybe even the rain, under the rain, to vote you in. And then you went through the process. You took an oath that you're going into that position because you want to represent your community, or you want to represent your locality where you're coming from. But once you get into power, things changes. Now, do we have people today in their, whether you're a governor, whether you're a senate, whether you're maybe you're a member of the Senate or member of the National Assembly or the state, you go back to your community and say, this is me, you voted me in. Can we sit down and have a roundtable discussion? Can we have a town hall meeting? What do you think are the challenges? You don't bring project and impose it on them. You ask them, what are the challenges you're having in this community? How can we work together? Most times when you have those kind of engagement, young people will participate more and they will protect the project. But when you don't get them involved, you just bring it on them. They don't value it. And most times, you check most of the projects we have around the country. So many of them are not sustainable. Go around and see. There are just projects, you just do it and then you just do the project, and then the next thing, I'm done. You take pictures, post it online, submit your reports, and you're done. But go back few months down the line, you won't see the life of that project. I'm not even going far. Somewhere in Cuba, there's a popular place by Yellow Page where they're constructing a road now, and they're even doing this waterway. I mean, we don't have heavy rain, but the last rain that fell brought down everything. I mean, everything scattered. So imagine now they've taken pictures and then they submit the project and say I'm done. But do we have quality assurance people in governance that will go back to that and say, let's see this project in the next 6 months, in the next 1 year? We have projects done by Julius Vega. We can, I don't know if this is allowed, but we have projects that when you look at it, you will see that these guys, they do projects that in the next 5-10 years, you can even use, even if you have 10 trailers moving at the same time, nothing will happen to the road.
Right.
But check some of the roads that we get to see out there. We see a lot of unsustainable projects. So we can change the narrative. Not just the government doing that, but the government and the people. And that is what governance is all about.
The governance and the people. Now, talking about the people, how do young individuals perceive existing accountability measures, and what do you think are the improvements or changes they believe are necessary for the measures to be more effective?
It's no other than, number one, education.
Okay.
Number two, awareness campaigns. And we can also create opportunity for meaningful participation. Imagine sports. Imagine cultural activities.
Okay.
Imagine revamping the educational system. So you have education centers today where you cannot even call it. I mean, most I don't know what to call it now, but remember when you're out of school or when you're preparing for an exam, you go for these extra classes. Some of these centers are much more better than even a government-owned secondary or primary school. You go around, you can't see. I mean, we're talking about technology. You can't see whiteboard. You can't see whiteboards. You can't see computer centers. Even the libraries, you can't even find any book in the library. Now we talk about education. What kind of education are we talking about? Education in the home, education in the community, education in the schools. So we can get young people together where we revamp, number one, the education and make them believe that this is their own project. No one is going to take responsibility of that project. And then cultural activities. One way you can get young people involved is through cultural activities. I've seen where people travel from here to Calabar. I've seen where people travel just to go to the village, not because they want to go and see one uncle or auntie they are missing, but they want to go and participate in the history, cultural activities of wherever they are from. And there's one thing again that is very funny that I don't really see in education, in our educational system anymore. History. I don't know why that was taken away from I mean,
they no longer teach
I don't really
history?
see much of history. I don't know. I can't really say, but I am telling you that I don't really see more of history.
Okay.
Storytelling. What are we talking about? How many parents today tell stories to their young people? We grew up knowing that our grandparents were telling us stories. And these stories are not just stories that we will just listen to and just be passive about it. No. Just a few days ago, my dad was telling me it's time for me to sit down for him to tell me a whole lot.
Okay.
And then it's time for us to start listening to this young. Because if you look at it, look at the days of our parents, or even look at some of us born in the very early 80s, you can see how life was then and how life is now. These are the days of the Malians and a whole lot of young people doing a whole lot of stuffs. How many of them are taking things seriously in terms of being accountable to their own lives? How many of them are even intentional with their own lives?
Well, we still have some that are intentional.
I am not saying everybody, please. I'm saying how many of them.
Some.
Thank you.
All right.
But we can have much more.
We can have much more.
I want to also correct this. The accountability is not just about the government. It's about everyone.
Okay.
Starting from your home, the school you attend, the community where you're from. And then this is where leadership also comes in. You don't wait to be crowned a leader. You can take that part of being a leader by initiating projects, by initiating programs that can help better the community. Together, as a force, we can make this country a better place.
Together as a force, we can make the country a better place. Now, talking about making the country a better place, is there a prevalent sense of political apathy amongst young people? Do you feel that exists?
We have seen protests.
Okay.
We have seen, I won't say it's time for revolution, no. But we have seen something close towards that. Close to that.
All right.
We have seen young people go out of the street, go to the streets, to hold their government accountable. And what happens at the end? These are not memories we should start talking about.
All right.
But we know that there are ways out to this. If you look at the history, let's back to South Africa, the time of Mandela. I mean, we also need to talk about Martin Luther King, talk about Gandhi. These are people with great voice. I mean, they use their voices not to set the country apart, but to bring unity among ourselves, among them. I mean, among the people. And what do they do differently? This is not about war.
Okay.
It's about peace. It's about dialogue. It's a process. So young people can come together to challenge whatever they are not happy with or about.
But
So
how can it be done in a peaceful way?
They can do that through writing. They can
Okay.
do that through town hall meetings. They can do that through dialogue. They can do that through peaceful protests. I mean, peaceful protests, ensuring there is no one coming out to destroy properties. You see, the disadvantage of destroying properties, it does not just affect you as an individual. It affects everybody that uses it. Check the last NSAS. A whole lot of things were destroyed. When it comes to things like this, you have the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good ones are there for change. They are there to change the narrative. They are there to make the government hear their voice. The bad ones and the ugly ones are there to the opposite. They are the ones that work for the corrupt leaders. Those that will say, we don't want this protest. So they get set up a different angle of young people, and the next thing you see is they start fighting back. But we can prevent this by, like I said before, changing narrative.
Okay.
Take ownership of what is ours, but not with force.
All right.
But
Peacefully.
in a very peaceful way.
All right.
We should also know that change is the only thing that is constant. It takes time. But as much as it takes time, we shouldn't be quiet about it. We have the digital space today where, even though we know that some of these platforms are being controlled, but we can lend our voices.
Okay.
We can start doing things differently. There are young people today that are receiving awards. If you check the last COP 28, you could tell that a whole lot of things about the climate change. You could tell from the voices of the young people from around the world. And I'm so surprised and still speechless that we had over 1,000 people from Nigeria who attended that climate change event, who know nothing about climate change, but decided to go there because maybe they want to have the feel of Dubai and they have the resources.
Okay.
But I think this is time for us to be intentional. Intentional in the sense that, imagine if you had 100 young people who are currently working on climate change, going for such kind of event. Do you think they will come back and everywhere will be quiet now? I am not saying this to say, of course, in every climate change is about everyone now. It's not about few people.
Yeah.
It's about everyone. So I hope that what they came back with will be benefit to either their maybe businesses, maybe in their leadership position. They can come up with policies. We do respect our president. I mean, we have
Okay.
we can see that change is a process, and I'm hoping that good news will come.
Yes, we are hopeful that good news will come. Now, final one. How do you think that the technological barriers impact the abilities of you to access and engage with information related to governance accountability?
Digital literacy, number one. Ensuring equitable access to technology and online platforms. If we can use this, the digital literacy, people need to understand this. We need to give room for equal access to information and technology. And also we need to also allow free press and allow people to be able to positively put out information online that can be benefit to everyone. Please I do not say go abuse the God. No, you cannot get anything through fight and abuse. So if we can teach people, encourage digital literacy, encourage equal information access, encourage equal technology usage, also freedom, free press. But when they say free press, please, it is not for insults. It is not, because every time you talk bad against your country, you're talking bad against yourself. I am privileged to have traveled to at least, I don't want to mention, very few countries, not less than 30, and not less than 20, no more than 30. And you can tell that every time you pass through the immigration process, there is always a challenge. But we can change this. And this is where, including the Ministry of Interior, including the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, including the Ministry of Youth, including other ministries that have to do with the people and the youths. Then we need to now start, and most times there should be press release from these government agencies to let the world know that there is, Nigeria is a country everyone should respect. We have all it takes to make this country a better place. We have the resources. We can see innovations from young people, technology, cool innovations, creative minds here and there. When you talk about fintech, you talk about edutech, there are investments now in this same country that you don't need to go to the four corners of the classroom to learn. You can do everything from start to finish online, and it is approved by NUC. You can tell. I don't want to mention name because this guy is not paid for the advert. So, but with this few points, even though I'm sorry I came in here unprepared, but I'm hoping that I've been able to, enlighten us, and encourage that we can work together as one peacefully. And then governance should encourage accountability and transparency. And there should be mentorship programs. There should be information packages that promotes transparency. And there should be room for young people to have access to government agencies. If you go to the secretariat today, you have the minister who is around ready to welcome people. But the secretaries there, some of them are blocks that you can't break with your hands, and we can change that.
Well, we can definitely change that. Now, if you're just joining us, you have missed a whole lot. And our guest right here in the studio was part of the conversation. And today we're looking at the topic, unraveling obstacles encountered by youth in engaging with governance accountability. Thank you so much for being part of the program.
Thank you. I will leave by saying mentorship is one that we should not. America today has over 3,000 mentorship centers. How many of that do we have in Nigeria? We can start
a very important question there.